Um, just hold on a second.
Well, I started the recording already, so whenever you're ready.
All right. You guys can do the introduction.
You want to start?
Okay.
Oh, okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Hazel Mura. I am the co-chair of transportation. And this is a joint meeting with land use and transportation. And today is Monday, February 5th, 2024. And we're just gonna introduce all the committee members from both committees.
Osha Fuchs, Transportation. Introduce yourself.
Oh, okay, Hazel Mura, transportation.
Meryl Hockham, Transportation.
You're not on either. Oh,
No.
you're not on. No, they're Koala Transportation.
Cynthia Rodriguez, Land Use.
Brian Barthel, Land Use and Transportation.
Those are online, please announce yourself.
Christine Culpepper, Land Use.
Stacy and Dillon, Land Use.
Transportation.
That's
Ken?
Who was that? Oh. Ken, we can't hear you.
Ken Gelnick, chair of land use.
Okay, that's
Oral's on.
Oral's
Oral
on.
Selkirk, co-chair land use.
Oral, can you please turn your camera on, please?
Okay, hold on.
And Christine, can you please turn your, thank you,
Is that everybody?
on the committees, yes. Everybody else is a spectator.
And also Bernadette Ferrara, committee member on both and chair.
No.
All right, so
Okay, start presentation.
Well,
Okay, so we're ready to listen to a beautiful presentation about the Westchester Yard Flood Mitigation Project. And that presentation will be given by
that's by you guys?
I'll be given, but
Madam.
you're not,
No.
is it Jonathan? No.
yes, Jonathan Flynn. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We hear you by Jonathan. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. So good evening, all. My name is Jonathan Flynn. I'm the Assistant Director of Government and Community Relations for the MTA. I'm joined this evening by my colleagues and members of the project team. We're here to brief the committee on the Westchester Flood Mitigation Project. And let me share my screen. And Jack, do you want to take it away?
Sure. All right, so my name is Jack Greenberg. I am with the company STV. I'm the project manager. STV is a consultant that is working on the design of this project for the MTA. I have with me Chris Serino, who is our lead structural engineer, and Matt Sagan, also a structural engineer, and Mark Shore, our lead civil engineer, is on the call as well. So I'm just going to go over to do a quick overview about the site and what the project is about. And then I guess afterwards we can get into, I guess, Jonathan, we can get into some questions. Okay, so the yard is the Westchester Yard. It's a 30-acre site. It's in the Bronx. It's a critical facility for the MTA. It's a place where they maintain and store the train cars and other rolling stock. It also serves as the car wash facility for the trains. There's a master tower for the main line over there. And there's also, they have track panel fabrication that goes on over there. And it also provides support for other projects that are happening throughout the system. They're able to utilize this, this yard to load work trains and dispose of debris. So we got into this before, but the project scope, it is a flood mitigation project that we are working on. And what we're proposing to provide at the yard is a new flood wall, floodgates, and security fencing and security gates that will surround the facility and harden it from some storm surge which the yard is vulnerable to. And that is going to be visible on the exterior and perimeter of the facility. And on the interior and mostly hidden from sight will be improvements to the infrastructure below ground for the drainage improvements of the site. There's going to be drainage infrastructure that is getting implemented to be able to withstand some of the heavy rainfalls that come in and to meet the latest DEP requirements for managing stormwater in the yard. So that is what this project is really all about. I mentioned before that STV, we're the project design consultant, along with several other designers working with us. The current status of the project, we're in the middle of the design process, and the forecasted award date for when the package would go to a contractor to build this is sometime in 2025. Q1 is the current forecast, and it is estimated that it'll be 48-month construction to build this project. Okay, so here we have a diagram that kind of very high level describes the perimeter protection that is being provided as part of the project. So we mentioned there are a few components before, but we can show you now on the plan what that means. There is in purple, and you see on the left side and the right-hand side of the site, there is custom security fencing. Right now, there's chain link fence and expanded metal security fence that is along the side of the site over there. And as part of this project, we are proposing to replace that with a decorative security fencing that will go along with the flood wall portion of the project. There's let me continue. So in the areas in orange, those areas represent where we're going to have a hard wall over there, and that's where, given the topography of the site, it does not require a full perimeter wall around the site, because it kind of creates like because of the gradation of the site, you have natural protection on the other few sides of the site. So you only really need a wall in the area in orange to protect it from those from the storm surge type of flooding. So there we are proposing to have a wall that is somewhere, from just a couple feet high up to about 8 feet high. That's a opaque wall that you can't really see through. And that's really what's going to provide the strength and protection for the site. In addition, there are areas we need portals for entry in and out of the site. So there are 3 areas in blue. Those are the gates. Those are going to be generally open for normal use, but will be closed to create the barrier that's needed during a storm. And then I guess lastly is we have these areas that we call them landscape recesses. They're areas in the wall where we are intentionally kind of stepping back to create an architectural moment over there, where we have plantings that we're looking to kind of enhance the visuals aesthetic of the facility. Right. Here's just another view of the same thing, but just to give you kind of on an isometric type of view. Again, you have the area in orange that represents, in this diagram over here, represents the hardened flood wall. And then you have the gates that are highlighted in green over here. All right, and then as you notice, there's also an area in gray. It really just represents the perimeter, but there's no physical construction up against those properties behind the yard. It is only at the areas that are public facing. Okay, so this is the proposed architectural concept that we have for the wall itself. So as I mentioned before, we have an opaque section of the wall that's about 8 feet high, but to maintain the security level that currently exists at the yard and meets the MTA standards, Their standard is for a 12-foot high security fence. So to make up the difference for the structural wall, we have this decorative metal panel that extends beyond, and it kind of works together with the panels on the wall to create to create kind of a pattern, which we'll see in a following slide, of how this whole composition comes together. But this is generally the makeup of the wall. You have a structural wall behind it with these panels in front of it that give it a decorative effect. Move to that slide. So here we have some renderings to kind of visualize a little bit better how this thing is going to come together. We have there's these long, the pattern that we have selected over here that we're trying to work with, kind of trying to mimic the idea of movement and transportation. It's kind of the rhythm that we came up with the pattern over here. And then above, and you can see that's opaque over there. And then above, you can see in the rendering, there's this transparency that comes through the metal panel section of it. And if you look down below at the second rendering, you have the area at the gates. There's currently these big sliding gates over there for the facility, right, for security control. And then also over there, we're going to have, this is just another rendering of what it's going to look like in that area. All right. Just getting a couple of more shots in there. We have an area, this is the area at the Master Signal Tower, which is right across from the school. There is just, a continuation of the pattern and more of what this project will look like in this area. And the rendering at the bottom represents kind of conceptually the metal panels that are going to be replaced at Westchester Avenue, where you have the overhead line. So you're going to have that transparency throughout the full height in that area. You'll be able to still see through it, but it creates a cohesive look around the whole facility. Okay, next slide. All right, so now we're going to talk a little bit about some of the impacts during construction. Now that we were talking about the permanent conditions. To build this, there's going to be some impacts, temporary impacts to be able to get this work in place. We have, as part of the, and I didn't really touch on it really before, but as part of the project, we're putting in sheet piles to create that structural wall. So that is a very, those are very large elements that have to get put into the ground. You need big equipment to get that installed. As you see, really, it's all hidden by the cladding, so you really don't see that from the exterior of the facility. But what we're looking at here is some of the lane closures that are going to be needed for the installs, and also there's going to be some stops, bus stops that get impacted for a short period of time during the construction. Here we have identify the relocation of BX21 bus stop on Waters Place when we do that portion of the construction. We're going to have some lane closures, noise mitigation measures that are in place. And we're also going to have to, as part of the phasing and sequencing of the project, we are having requirements to minimize disruption to the mainline service and construction support throughout the yard. The next slide. So this is the PSX 721, which is I mentioned it in one of the renderings across the street from this, the school. This is the school I'm referring to. There's an area at Fink Avenue and Waters Avenue that currently has two-way traffic that will that kind of goes around the school, between the school and the site. And as part of the construction, we're going to have a lane closure over there, and short term have a one-way to be able to facilitate the equipment that needs to get in place to do these installations. All right, so that's what's happening in this area.
Yep. And I'll take this slide. So next steps, we're going to continue our community outreach. We're notifying Community Board 10. They will be receiving this briefing deck. Also, we're doing outreach to PSX 721 school as well. And once the project is officially awarded, we're going to re-engage all stakeholders to get them updated information. The next slide is where you could contact us at. You could contact me, or you could contact Luke if you have any questions tomorrow, because we will have a section shortly where you can ask questions to the project team in the MTA. So we're going to jump to that slide and open the floor to questions and comments, if there's any.
Yeah, I do have a few questions to ask. My name is Oral Sullivan.
Oral.
Yeah.
Can we get back to you in a minute? Hold on a second. We want to
sure
take care of
can.
the room here first.
Let me know.
Okay, the room first. Christine, you're first in the room.
Oh, Bernadette.
Bernadette.
You know, like,
Like where? Okay, hi. So the question I have is, what is there now? What's presently there now for the security, which right now I'm sure there is a lot of stuff for security, a lot of built up construction. And why do you feel that this is added and needed? So I'm just like giving an overall question.
Yep. Sure. So what's currently out there is there's a 12-foot high chain link or expanded metal fence, depending on where you're at in the yard, that surrounds the whole perimeter and gates. And for much of the area along Waters Place, which is almost the entire stretch of the new wall, there's a lot of shrubbery there. That's kind of also creates this kind of opaque, shielding between the street and the yard. So that's what's currently there. And with this proposal, that entire fence and the shrubs would be completely removed, and the new wall would be put in its place. The need for the project really comes from some of the studies around the vulnerability for the yard from storm events. And as with many there are multiple projects throughout the MTA's system that we've not necessarily STV, but the MTA has implemented measures to protect their facilities so that they can continue to provide continuous operation for their facilities and keep the trains running. And protecting the yard is a key measure for that. So this, in terms of determining the heights of the walls and things like that, there were flood studies for that, and it's designed for a category types 2 storm that would come in, and this would be able to resist that type of flooding.
Thank you.
okay, it's my question if I can.
Yeah.
So you're doing this for 48 months, starting in 2025.
Yes.
So we have on the Hutchinson River Parkway, one exit north Tremont Avenue and one south Tremont Avenue that are clogged up already. I'm sure you're going to have tons of workers coming in during that 48 months. Where in the world are those cars going to go to?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, there's, as part of any construction project, there is going to be an impact. I don't know if we've really get into the specific evaluation of where those cars are going to end up. I don't know if maybe
Not even ending up. I think coming off that Hutch exit, which is big already, you are going to be backed up much, much longer now. It is not 2 of the best exits in America. One is very short that goes up right by whether residential houses, and the other one, you got people going to the Metro Center all over America. You got people going to Waters Place. I definitely think somewhere in your concerns should be, what in the world are you going to be doing with all those cars? You can be creating mass havoc in that area. That's my comment.
So,
No, I see you really don't have an answer now, so I guess we got to table it.
no, I can start answering that. So ultimately, I understand what you're saying, especially coming off that exit, but only one direction of that exit will be directly affected. Because I understand what you're saying in regards to a greater amount of traffic, but in reality, it's in one direction. And we've already started working on how mobilizing and how staging works. What we would be doing is reconfiguring it, because it already was stated in one of the slides that parking will be heavily affected, and that's the parking that's directly attached on the side of the yard. Any other parking that's associated or near that hospital or other adjacent properties shouldn't be as a heavily affected, unless most likely when you're getting some equipment during staging processes and that shifting. But natural traffic will be what it is already, which, as you guys have correctly stated, during certain times of the day has a frequency where it does cause slowdown, but that exists currently already. We're not changing that.
With all due respect, a lane closure and elimination of parking is only going to exacerbate the currently existing issue. I don't think that it would be unwise to say that it would be as it is if we're closing the lane and eliminating parking. The logical thing is going to be then to assume that this congestion is going to flow into residential streets, because where else are they going to go?
Now,
I
on
wanna
Warder's
chime
Place
in.
over there, I don't know if anybody knows this answer. On Warder's Place, right over there where you are, is that alternate parking or that's free parking the whole time?
Free.
It's free?
Right.
Okay, so that's all the more actually a bigger problem now. Is it free? Cars are there the whole time? Where are they gonna put these cars?
Yeah,
So
that's incorrect.
If I may
can
add
quickly
one
just
point.
clarify something. So my name is Megan. I'm Assistant Director of Government and Community Relations. I work with Jonathan. DOT, New York City DOT is a central clearinghouse. Their Office of Construction Coordination and Mitigation. They're the central clearinghouse for permits. So I understand the concerns. We're not trying to undermine that. We'll take it back as far as the concerns for that specific location, but I just want to also clarify that DOT, being the agency that has jurisdiction over the streets, they're the ones that give us on the permits. So we'll note the concerns, but just wanted to register that as well.
Have you contacted, I would assume, and not I assume, I noticed, the MTA employees park inside that lot, is that correct?
Correct.
Correct. So have you contacted MTA to see if they're gonna allow all these construction people to park in
No,
there?
the contractors will not be in the yard unless they're doing work in a specific area. But for the most part, all work will occur on the outside of the yard. It has to occur on outside of the yard just due to how the installation has to work.
Okay, thank you. Next
If I
question.
also may add, we're not taking out all the parking all at once. This is a staged operation, so you're gonna take a stretch out. The contractor's not gonna have the ability to do that. They can only take out a certain amount, and sequence it in such a way that it minimizes the disruption. I mean, that's normally how it's done, and for this project wouldn't be an exception.
Right, but also recognizing that there's also a school, like, I think
Yeah, absolutely.
there
Oh,
are some
absolutely.
concerns, there are school buses there are children.
Yeah, that- that's
this is
exactly
going to
what-
pose a significant safety risk.
That's exactly what I was gonna be asking, cause I'm a school bus driver and my company services that school, 721. I know those children that attend that school are either in wheelchairs or heavily compromised in some sort of way. So it's not like, all right, get off the school bus a block away and then walk. These children will not be able to do that. So how is it gonna be for the children
got-
to be getting off the bus at that school?
I got it, Jack. So again, and especially for that school in particular, me and my team looked into that heavily. We will not be affecting the wider sidewalk on the side that's attached to the school. The side on Waters that we would affect has no sidewalk. There is literally nowhere for you to walk on that side. It's just a curb attached to our gate. You could never put any person or a child there safely walking across it unless they're walking in the street. That's the current configuration.
Yeah. Yeah, that,
Wait,
And-
I have.
Yeah,
Hold on, Christine.
And the other thing I had wanted to ask was, you're saying that you're gonna be removing the shrubs that are all along Waters Place.
Correct.
I believe me, I'm not an architect. I don't play one on TV or anything like that. But I know in like other flooding situations, they found that when you're removing greenery, you're then gonna cause more flooding. Is there any way you could be keeping the greenery for it to help soak up any of the flooding issues? Because I do know that that area does have a lot of flooding issues.
yeah, no, that's a good point that you're making. When we look at this site overall, we are going to be impacting it by putting in some of this physical infrastructure especially from the rainfall flooding you're talking about. And when it comes to let's say for a storm surge, it doesn't really, the shrubbery's not gonna, it's not gonna do much because you're dealing with the ocean that you're protecting against. But from the rainfall, absolutely true. And part of the upgrades actually that are happening at this facility are actually gonna take the drainage significantly further and detain a lot of the water, which is not currently that way. So it's gonna keep a lot of the water off the streets that would have otherwise ended up there quickly. So what you're going to see is an improvement, I think, in not just in the yard, but also outside of it. Because some of it right now could potentially sheet off the property and you have a wall there that will prevent that from happening. But in terms of our overall calculations, that is something, yes, that in removing that, there is a net negative for that particular construction activity, but there's other net positives that we're providing that will meet the current DEP standards. All right.
At the table, Cynthia, I think that's what's going.
No, I just want to Laurel and Christine.
Oh,
They're waiting.
Okay, so Hazel is here. What's that? That's the water.
So Candy Bank, there's no wonder that it was bigger.
I can ask a question or not?
You can? No, I think it's not.
Yeah, you mentioned that you were going to be relocating the 21 bus route. Where are you relocating it to?
Just the stop. I don't.
Basically, that would be a decision between us and DOT. Usually, there's probably enough room to move it a little further down the block, and as during the phasing and then bringing it back. But right now, the details haven't been worked out 100%.
Okay, because a lot of people take that bus to go to the Metro Center. I'm just a little concerned that people are going to have to walk a little further. So that's just my concern about where exactly this bus stop is going to be and how far from the original stop it'll be.
As stated, early findings right now, we're anticipating it to be a short walk, just wrapping around back around the corner. It shouldn't be much longer of a walk, but as my colleague stated, we're not 100% sure right now, but we've had early on conversations with DOT on mapping things out, and we're pretty confident that they'll allow us to have it just moved slightly away, just so basically we don't impede or cause or put people in harm's way while construction is occurring. And again, most likely that will be phased in the latest part, so you guys have chances to make the community aware, have other opportunities, other ways to get around. So there'll be a big discussion well before that, because again, as Jack mentioned, it will be properly phased in a way that we're trying to cause the littlest as inconvenience as possible.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, we're gonna go
Wait,
after the screen. Oh, wait, okay.
Are you gonna, is there a way you can make this presentation available to us?
Yes, definitely. We could share it with you guys.
Okay, thank you.
No
Okay,
problem.
I'm gonna go to the screen.
Oral
was first. Oral was first.
Yeah, I think someone mentioned it, that I was going to bring it up, because once you put that wall up, you're preventing the rainwater from going into the site. So water has to go somewhere. And I think that, I think he may have mentioned it, but I don't know if you go into it further. How would you now mitigate some of that water that will no longer be going into the site, will be now coming onto the street itself and to neighboring areas? So how would you now prevent that additional water that was once going to the site, but now going into the street, because the flood wall is stopping that water? So I think you started to talk about it, Jack. But you know, can you talk about a little further and how would
Yeah, I could talk about that. And there's actually two scenarios to talk about. What I was actually talking about was about the rainfall flooding. And when it comes to rainfall, the current configuration, water, I believe that there's some water that even exits the site now.
Yeah.
So exits the site, right? So, so what we are doing is going to improve that. Because that is a requirement from the DEP, and all of that's going to be detained on site. So when it comes to rainfall, there's absolutely no exacerbating of existing conditions, the latter will happen. But when it comes to the stormwater from heavy winds, right? When we're talking
Right.
about storm surge, so there have been studies, and I can't point to this specifically here, but we've done analyses in other locations. I think it was at the Coney Island yard, it was a much larger facility. And when we're talking about a surge like this, even the volume of water that's not entering the yard,
Right.
it's not there's so much water outside of the yard already that it's basically negligible. It's like less than a fraction of an inch that we're talking about in terms of impact to neighboring facilities, as far as the stormwater goes. So that's pretty much what I could say about that. So it's really not going to have an adverse effect on the neighbors.
Okay, and the last question is the graffiti. I think graffiti is going to be an issue.
Absolutely.
With that wall now, because that's when I was younger, that's a tagging wall for me.
Yep.
So how are you going to address those issues?
That's a big concern for the MTA, a big concern that we were contemplating during the design of the wall. It's something we thought about very carefully. Maintenance of the wall, right now, I'll just give you the current scenario. You have all the shrubs. There's a lot of garbage that collects there. People throw their stuff in the bushes, and I've walked the site many times, and there's a lot of that just accumulates, and it's really not great. And the level of maintenance you need to do to keep that clean and a fresh sidewalk it's tremendous. And with what we're proposing for kind of mitigating the concern, now you have a wall. It's a giant wall open for tagging. So the system that we have is a cleanable type of material that should allow for graffiti to be cleaned up directly on those on the tiles. But part of it also is that they're replaceable. So if there's a scenario where they get damaged, they get damaged from either tagging or impact or whatever like that, they're extremely durable and resistant type of material that we're providing. But the consideration for all of the things that might happen to this wall, and how we might be able to mitigate against those are the measures, is whether they clean it or replace those tiles. And part of this project will have some additional stock that comes with it for the MTA to have on.
It can become an eyesore after a while.
100%. It's a major concern. You look around the whole city; it's a big concern, and this is something we really thought about. And we looked at a lot of different alternatives for the best way to mitigate against that. So, and when it comes to the laser cut panel, it's a stainless type of finish, so that can is very cleanable type of material.
Also, I want to be clear to even jump more onto that, because me and my colleague Ben went to multiple sites where the projected materials that we're going to use are actually already installed, and literally, and I'm not gonna what would be the word? I'm not gonna incriminate myself, but let's say there were things that accidentally hit the wall and it held up very nicely. So we did some tests already, and saw that the materials that we're projecting in, the reason why we picked this type of fence, the reason why that fence has this type of spacing, all is the same fears that you have. We have even more fears because we actually have to maintain that. So the same fears that you have, we have the same idea, which is why the materials isn't exactly flat. There's actually like a 3D element to it. So even if you spray it, you can't get a great tag on it. We've been trying to think as future proofing as possible, putting a graffiti coat in. But the reality is at some point, you get to a reality of like, all right, I feel like we've done as much as we can do. And that's where I think we're getting to. But we will continue to hear feedback on how every stakeholder is feeling within the materials that's been presenting.
Anybody else from the screen?
Christine.
That's why I called you Christine, because I don't know Christine. Okay, Christine, go ahead.
Hi, so I heard a couple of people mention phases and DOT. So my question is about that. How many phases do you predict it will take? How many phases will you complete this project in? And do you plan to have with the DOT a traffic control plan throughout each phase
Yeah.
to address the work that is happening and how it's affecting, moving traffic at that moment?
So that's a good questions. So we have, I can't remember the specific number that we have right now because the design is still in development, and so it might also shift the number of how it gets phased. Let's say under, maybe under 8 different segments that will be taken up. So you have the more phases you have, the smaller area of parking you're going to be taking up, right, as you move along. So in each configuration, each one will require a maintenance and protection of traffic and coordination with the DOT that all of the proper roadway signs and safety is in place for each and every single configuration. So they'll have to get that all set up, put everything in place, then they can do their work in that area. And when they're ready to move to the next area, they then set up for the next area and then take down the staging and all that for the previous area. So that's kind of how it gets done. And part of it is dictated by the contractor and their time to do each thing. There's only so much that we estimate in the times for each phase. But that's the general gist of it. And I would think when you're looking at the perimeter for this size of the site, it might make sense around, 5 or 6 different segments that they'll take up.
Will you have those plans available for the community boards to look at it anytime soon?
I guess I'm going to defer to the MTA on that one. I mean, I think what we currently have for the perimeter, I think, I don't know what's available to be shared, but we certainly have more work that we need to do to finalize all of those plans.
Gotcha.
Right. So
you also spoke about the contractor. Who will be doing the work, the construction?
that doesn't get decided until it goes out to bid, which will be.
All right, hang on.
All right, go ahead.
All right. So, as Jack was alluding to, it's going to go out for bid, which means contractors will be bidding for it again. Now, in terms of seeing a preview of the drawings or anything like that, in terms of the final set, it'd be shall I say, it might be not to our best thing to have it leak out. We can give you maybe portions of it or general gist. Which
So
is
for
what
security
the,
purpose, you're saying that you're not going to be able to disclose the blueprints of the project?
Exactly.
Gotcha.
At least maybe not all of it. I gotta see what segments we can, or give you the general gist.
I think that like what I'm hearing a lot from the community board members, and probably we'll hear more from community members, is just, concerns about how that's going to affect traffic in the area. So even if you can't, disclose all of the, plans for the different phases of the project, maybe, the traffic control plans can be something that is shared, to sort of ease people's concerns.
Right, which is the MPT plans. Sorry, which would be like the MPT, the maintenance protection of traffic and things like that, which needs to be cleaned up and further developed. But yes.
So when we get closer to actually being able to set up our staging for our MPT, or maintenance and protection of traffic, we'll be able to communicate our phasing plan, and that'll account for whatever street level impacts you're seeing. We'll give intersections information about any traffic control if that's going to be in the area, and that's standard. We do that when we are closer to project start. We're ahead of schedule here, so we won't be able to share specific plans for security purposes, but we will be able to describe the phasing plan.
Sure.
Yeah.
When do you guys expect to begin the first phase?
It's going to be after the first quarter of 2025. But Christine, just to add to what Ben and Jack said about the phasing, although this job is 48 months long, but half of the work is actually inside the yacht doing drainage work. So So when we're talking about taking MPT and taking sidewalk and those kind of stuff, it's probably limited to 2.5 years.
So most of that work that you're talking about is on the perimeter of
Right.
yard, and that's removing and installing fencing pretty much.
Right. But we have a lot of work inside the yard as well.
Right. So the one that's going to be, the one that the part of the job, so that everybody understands, right, that it's going to probably affect traffic most,
Right.
is removing the fencing that exists now,
Absolutely.
the shrubbery,
Yeah.
and then installing the fencing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Okay, anybody else from the board up there? Going once, going twice. So thank you so much, everybody that joined us. You are all dismissed and enjoy your evening.
Wait, don't dismiss.
No, I'm not dismissing those people over there. They don't have to stay here. I know who I'm dismissing.
The problem is that some people might think that,
No, we're still going. We're still going. And now we're going to our second presentation. That's where we are. Go.
Wow, Rabbi, you're interesting.
Thank you.
Isn't that?
Maybe.
Is that possible? Just so that we can do our thank you.
And that's a Brunswick and North.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, you got stretched.
That's okay.
Okay, so second presentation is notice of certification, Bronx Metro North Station. And it's all yours. Take it away.
In the folder on the bottom.
Here.
Yeah.
So I think to put that in full screen.
Just a quick question from my team. I'm so sorry, guys, to interrupt y'all. Can the Westchester team depart? I just want to make sure.
Yes. I dismissed you.
Okay.
No, we were just making sure. we were making sure. All right.
Stay if you want.
Right.
Westchester team, thank you.
Confirm they see it.
Sharon's, yeah, you Sharon.
Can you confirm they see it?
What?
Does everybody?
Does everybody see it? See the presentation?
Yeah.
Christina, can you? Oral said yes.
Yeah, oral said yes.
Okay, everyone can hear us. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Paul Phillips. I'm the Borough Director at the Bronx Office of the Department of City Planning. I'm joined by my Deputy Director, Alexander Patidias, and we are here tonight to present to you the Bronx Metro North Neighborhood Plan. We'd like to first share a little background on the study. We'll also talk a little bit about the years of outreach that have led to the formation of this proposal. We'll step through the existing conditions and the proposed actions in detail. This will be followed by a summary of public realm planning and a series of city map actions. We'll conclude with an overview of parallel planning around workforce development and the study's associated environmental review. Oh, sorry. There we go. Okay. Okay. So today the East Bronx lacks regional rail service. In the future, new rail service will bring greater access to the city and surrounding region. This means that Bronxites will have more choices for where they work, where they live, and how they enjoy themselves. There will also be significantly improved connections from the region to critical medical, research, and job institutions throughout the borough. New service gives us a unique opportunity to thoughtfully integrate these new stations into the fabric of communities that they'll serve. Over the past 6 years, the department has worked collaboratively with both the MTA, members of the community, and area institutions, among others, to make this a reality. Together, we have developed a vision for creating new front doors to these Bronx communities and a world-class entry point to one of the city's most important job centers. Next. This involves strengthening existing job centers by allowing them to grow. Next. It also means mending seams between communities created by a history of inadequate public infrastructure and facilities. And it also means allowing for a mix of housing and retail near rail service in areas of the borough that have seen little growth over the years. The 4 stations span areas that are demographically, geographically, and structurally quite diverse. As such, the planning work over the years has taken a station-by-station approach. While the plan itself involves all 4 stations, the land use actions that we're going to be discussing this evening are specifically focused around the Parkchester Van Ness and Morris Park stations. The land use actions that we're reviewing tonight span 3 community districts in the Bronx, Community District 9, Community District 10, and Community District 11. The plan itself will facilitate the development of nearly 7,500 units of housing, and almost 2,000 of those units would be permanently affordable in an area of the city that has seen little new affordable housing in recent years. The land use actions will also support the growth of 2.5 million square feet of commercial and community facility uses. This also includes significant growth for life sciences and estimated will create almost 10,000 new jobs. The actions consist of a series of zoning map amendments, zoning text amendments, and city map amendments. Together, they will promote the growth of housing and retail, strengthen job centers, support industries of the future, and enhance the public realm. As we touched on earlier, the land use actions are a result of many years of long outreach and engagement process. The study officially launched in July of 2018 and has spanned nearly 6 years of sustained outreach and coordination. This ensured that a variety of stakeholders were able to give input and help shape the plan that is presented before you this evening. Outreach included a series of working group meetings held with an assortment of area and Bronx-wide institutions, elected officials, and others. They helped to guide the direction of our work, particularly in the early days. In-person workshops were critical to identifying key issues, constraints, and opportunities as we set about developing a vision for how to best integrate the new train stations into surrounding communities. Public open houses, we shared draft recommendations around each of the station areas so that the public could offer feedback and guidance along the way. We held convenings where institutions from the community as well as across the borough and city could discuss and jointly advocate for their needs around the stations. And finally, remote open houses, workshops, information sessions, and office hours allowed us to engage with members of the public about this very important planning work in a remote fashion, allowing residents to participate where it's most convenient for them and their families. The Neptune North study also builds on prior and parallel planning work. For example, it builds on the 2014 Sustainable Communities in the Bronx study, which contemplated an initial set of improvements at Morris Park and Parkchester Van Ness that served as an important starting point for our work. Other notable coordination includes the Empire State Development General Project Plan for 1.9 million square feet of development of the Bronx Psychiatric Center campus, New York City's EDC's Hunt Point Forward Plan, joint outreach sessions hosted by City Council Land Use and the Bronx Borough's President's Office in fall of last year, and most recently, the Urban Lands Institute's work to help Montefiore Einstein re-envision their Morris Park campus around new transit service. Very importantly, this study has been coordinated with and informed by 3 City Invest Text Amendment, carbon neutrality, economic opportunity, and housing opportunity. We worked with a wide range of stakeholders over the years, including neighborhood institutions, education, and medical institutions. Many of them are listed here. And excellent. And of course, large planning initiatives like Metro North necessitates coordination with a very vast array of city, state, and federal agencies, from New York City's DOT to the Mayor's Office of Talent and Workforce Development, and the MTA and Amtrak. This important coordination will continue as we move through this process for years to come. Next, we will walk through existing conditions in Parkchester Van Ness. So in terms of land use, Parkchester Van Ness is characterized by a mix of industrial, retail, and automotive uses near the planned station, with a mix of mid and low density residential districts characterized to the north and south of East Fremont Avenue, as well as eastern extreme of the proposed rezoning area. You can see reflected that in the zoning, which consists primarily of M11, which is a manufacturing district, and C8, which is also a commercial district, mostly for auto-related uses, and also small portions of R5 and R4 and R5 zoning districts within the affected area, with R4 and R6 districts dominating beyond the outside of the study area. The study area is well served by transit, with subway service available within a mile via the 2 and 5 train at 180th Street, and also the 6th line south of Parkchester. Numerous bus lines traverse East Tremont Avenue, one of the few east-west corridors that traverse the entire borough, and along major corridors including Westchester Avenue, Morris Park Avenue, Bronx Hill Avenue, White Plains Road, and Unionsport Road. Here we have a selection of photos of the affected area, beginning with a view of Bronx Hill Avenue looking south from Pierce. On the left is an existing automotive district, and on the right you can see the large Con Ed facility and some of the industrial structure to the south. Next, on East Tremont Avenue looking east, from roughly the location of the new station. On the right, you can see the Parkchester community, and on the left, you can see the existing Amtrak rail line where the new Metro North service will be located. Next is a view of East Tremont at Leland Avenue with a view to the east. On the left is an existing automotive district, and here you can see the Parkchester community is visible in the background. And finally, we have a view on East Tremont Avenue looking towards the west from the easternmost extent of the affected area. On the left, right behind, you can see some of the existing R4 and R6 and R4 residential context to the north and south of East Tremont Avenue. Next, we will walk through the existing conditions at Morris Park. So Morris Park is predominantly characterized by large institutional campuses concentrated to the east and west of the future station. Within the affected areas are a number of low-scale industrial, commercial, and automotive uses. Nearby areas beyond the institutional campuses and south of the affected area include residential and commercial uses. Zoning within the affected area consists primarily of M11 industrial districts with a mix of commercial to low mid-density residential district west of the medical campuses and east of Hutchinson River Parkway. Transit in the area characterized by bus service running along the major corridors of Morris Park Avenue, Eastchester Road, and East Tremont Avenue, and nearby subway service can be found approximately 1 mile to the south and southeast of the station with the 6 train. Notably, the local road network is characterized by a historical gap in the network created by the Hutch Metro Center, generally delineated by Pelham Parkway to the north, Waters Place to the south, Hutch to the east, and the rail line to the west. Importantly, both station areas will benefit from the city's pilot scooter program, which we believe will be an important alternate means for traveling to and from the new stations. Here we will go through some photos of the existing contests. First is a view from the corner of Eastchester and Waters Place. In the foreground are our visible range of medical and retail uses in the existing M11 zoning district. And in the background, we can see the existing Montefiore Einstein's large-scale campus. Next is a view looking north along Eastchester Road from Morris Park Avenue. On the right, we see the affected area and the existing industrial, retail, and automotive context. On the left are the Albert Einstein College of Medicine student residence towers. Next is a view looking north along Bassett Avenue from Morris Park Avenue. On the right, we see the existing Amtrak rail line, and on the left, existing industrial and automotive uses within the affected area. And finally, and importantly, we have a view to the west from Morris Park Avenue, roughly the view a passenger from a passenger exiting the new station in the future would have, absent the proposed changes. In the foreground, we see some of the existing low-scale context, while in the background, again, is visible the Montefiore Einstein campus and its residential towers. And quickly, an important note on the housing context. So among the 12 Bronx community districts, 2 of the affected CDs have some of the lowest rates of housing production. I would note that 80% of the proposed housing growth in this plan would take place in Community District 11, which has produced 140 units of affordable housing since 2014. While the area has seen zoning changes in the past, most of those changes have been focused on contextualizing existing districts and in effect creating little meaningful increase in housing capacity. Next. In terms of mandatory inclusionary housing, or MIH as it's called, the areas adjacent to the new stations have only seen 2 projects since the advent of MIH nearly 10 years ago.
With that context in mind, it's time to move to the proposal at hand. Here are the principles that have guided this plan: leveraging new service for the creation of housing near transit, strengthening existing job centers and corridors, encouraging uses and development compatible with transit-oriented development, and increasing density on major streets, large sites, and at new transit stations. Specifically, this means to allow for housing in areas where little or no housing is not permitted and require permanently affordable housing. Support growing industries in healthcare and life science in the area, and create and enhance key commercial corridors. Also implement building height limits to respond to existing neighborhood contexts. Require active streetscapes along key corridors and near planned stations, and promote the provision of open space and pedestrian access improvements. To this end, we propose with this plan a series of zoning map, zoning text, and city map amendments. Now let's look in detail at the proposed zoning map amendments. We have structured our proposal around 7 distinct sub-areas. The station adjacent sub-area at Morris Park in red, transitional mixed-use and residential sub-areas meant to respond to the surrounding lower density neighborhoods in blue, high-density residential sub-areas near future Parkchester and Van Ness Station, which are the orange ones, station-adjacent retail and automotive sub-areas, purple, and you may see it in pink, and one large opportunity site at 1601 Bronxdale Avenue, which is a light red in your screens. I will now walk you through each of these sub-areas one at a time. The station adjacent sub-areas located next to the future Morris Park train station, where we look to create density to capitalize on the new transit service, allowing for the growth of existing job centers and creating new housing opportunities. The existing zoning districts are listed on the top of the slide, in this case, M11. Around the Morris Park train station, we propose a C44 district with an R8 residential equivalent, concentrating new housing and commercial near transit and between the 2 medical campuses. Through the special purpose district, we propose to increase both permitted commercial and residential FARs compared to what would you otherwise see in a C44 district. In the table shown on these slides, you will see the bulk and density regulations as proposed, including any modifications for our proposed special district. Here you can see the type of scale of future development that you can expect next to the Morris Park station and existing job centers. Next, we have mixed-use transitional. Again, with the goal of growing the Morris Park job centers, we're proposing a C4 districts for this sub-area in the current commercial and healthcare area. Oh, sorry, I didn't see it.
It just popped up.
Okay, what do I say?
Just decline.
Okay. Thank you. I was still on this slide and I wanted to change. Okay, sorry about that. Similar to the station adjacent sub-area, we're proposing to increase the commercial FAR through the special purpose district to promote new commercial uses. Here you can see the type and scale of future development on sites near the Jacobi Montefiore Health campuses and near the existing job centers in Hodge Metro Center. The neighborhood commercial sub-area is located on the Montefiore Einstein Medical Campus. Our actions here are meant to facilitate and improve pedestrian connections between the Morris Park neighborhood to the west, the existing health campuses, and the future station. Similar to key corridors elsewhere in the project area, we propose a C24 overlay here in the existing large-scale community facility development for the Montefiore Medical Campus, does not allow commercial uses such as neighborhood servicing retail. Here you can see the type of future development that will be possible on this important intersection of commercial corridors near the future Morris Park station and how it will benefit from having neighborhood serving commercial uses. The transitional residential sub-area is meant to provide a transition between higher densities close to the station and existing lower scale residential neighborhoods. This sub-area centers around key corridors such as East Tremont Avenue and East Chester Road. We're looking to map mid-density residential districts. Sorry, I want to stay here. We're looking to map mid-density residential districts along these corridors to provide that transition and respond to existing context. A C24 overlay are proposed along the corridors. Here are the corresponding charts describing each of the zoning districts and the type of future development that we'll be seeing in these areas. For example, along East Tremont Avenue and how it relates to its existing context. The high-density residential sub-area is centered around the future Parkchester Van Ness station and the large opportunity sites there. Again, in an effort to create new housing and commercial spaces closer to the future stations. As is true for all proposed residential and mixed-use commercial districts, a portion of all future housing units will be required to be affordable per MAH. And in response to the building form of Parkchester Special Plan Community, the proposed RAX district will ensure the maximum building height fits well within the context. Here you can see the type and scale of future development close to the Parkchester Van Ness station and how it fits within the existing context. Now, due to its proximity to one of the future train stations, the size of the lot, and the potential to create open space and pedestrian access, we took a closer look at this site that is called 1601 Bronxdale. The proposed actions are tailored to conquer those goals. A pair M11A/R73 district is proposed here to provide flexibility for industrial uses while allowing for mid-density mixed-use residential development. A mapping action is pursued together with the Bronxdale property owner to create a connection between the surrounding neighborhood and the future station, and setting aside space for publicly accessible open space in the large site. Here, we will map an N11A district that the zoning for economic opportunity proposal currently in public review also envisions. Here you can see the type and scale of the future development close to the future Metro North Station, as well as the open spaces and public realm improvements that will be facilitated by the mapping action. The automotive commercial sub-area runs along a stretch of East Tremont Avenue, now dominated by auto-oriented uses and characterized by small, shallow lots abutting the rail line. A CA2 district is proposed here to allow existing auto uses to continue to be there while also creating opportunities for other commercial uses, such as retails that commuters and residents could patronize. Here you can see the type of future development on these sites abutting the rail line to the left. Remember, these are very small lots and also they're shallow. So to allow new development, we will need to allow new housing developments. Here we will have to weigh regular requirements to be able to better utilize this small, hard to develop lots. So we choose to keep the existing uses, but also add more options for retail that serves the neighborhood. And finally, an important note regarding the boundaries of an existing special district, the Parkchester Special Plan Community Preservation District. This will facilitate residential development and allow active uses to be built here to better connect Parkchester community with the new station. The portion proposed to be removed from the special district is different from the rest of the Parkchester community in terms of its use, zoning, and build form. And no new development is allowed here today under the special district. This area will simultaneously be added to the proposed special Eastchester Stream Corridor District. This comprehensive set of zoning changes, we believe, will help facilitate the development of vibrant mixed-use districts centered around new transit access in a way that is both respectful to the existing context while providing opportunities for growth presented by the unique and historic opportunity to support new rail service. And now we will shift our focus to the proposed zoning text amendments. Which are: establish and map the special Eastchester East Tremont Corridor District, establish an R61 and an M11 district in our zoning resolution, apply mandatory inclusionary housing, extend the transit zone, and remove language that exclusively applies to CA4 districts with a special plan community preservation district areas. That was a lot of words. We would like to begin by discussing the special Eastchester East Tremont Corridor District and its components, which seek to promote the growth of housing and employment centers around the transit, foster more services and amenities for residents, workers, and visitors, ensure a lively and attractive urban streetscape around the stations along major corridors, and create a cohesive pedestrian and public rail network that will better connect future developments with the future stations, areas, and surrounding neighborhoods. We propose several special district provisions to facilitate and support residential growth around new transit, such as modify FARs and building height in certain R districts, incentivize the construction of schools, eliminate parking requirements for new housing developments. Other provisions seeks to create a lively public realm and cohesive and active urban streetscapes that connect the new buildings and stations to the surrounding neighborhoods. You're already familiar with some of these provisions as they are part of the zoning for economic opportunity proposals, such as density bonus for public rail improvements, authorizations for bulk flexibility to accommodate bonus floor area, transfer of floor area mechanisms for Morris Park Station Plaza, allow commercial activity on second floors in C2 for districts, and streetscape regulations. And the third and final set of provisions centers around growing existing job centers, specifically in Morris Park, such as simplify and rationalize bulk envelopes for non-residential uses, modify FARs in C43 and C44 districts, facilitate development on shallow lots along the rail, and consistent parking and loading framework for non-residential uses. Finally, very importantly for us, in an area of the city that has seen very few mandatory inclusionary housing areas mapped since its creation nearly a decade ago, and few affordable units produced, the Bronx Metro North Plan proposes the largest mapping of MIH in the Bronx since the Jerome Avenue study in 2018. To complement the MTA's works and our own proposal of land use actions, the plan also proposes a series of public rail improvements around each of the station areas. At Morris Park, we recommend improvements including new open space, roadway improvements, and a new signature plaza for the Morris Park Job Center. The proposed land use changes allow these improvements to be realized when funding is available, which we are already actively working with our sister agencies. The public amenities can enhance for those who live, work, or visit the Morris Park Station area by train, or currently live in the area. Similarly, in Park Chester Van Nest, there are a series of potential improvements to the public realm. These include improvements to existing open spaces, critical pedestrian improvements, and incentives for an expanded public realm. In the future, together with the proposed city map and zoning text amendments, East Raymond Avenue can be transformed into a unified scene between communities to the north and to the south. This vision includes expanded open space, improved sidewalks and crosswalks conditions, as well as a more active mix of uses along this important corridor and near new transit service. Now, a few words on the city's parallel workforce development and jobs planning work. Stepping back a moment to view the large regional context, we can see that these new stations connect people to roughly the same number of private sector jobs as exist in the city of St. Louis. Notably, the line has also developed as a life science corridor that stretches from New Haven all the way to Midtown Manhattan. Morris Park has always played an important part in this growing industry and along this key regional corridor. Zooming in, we can see that Morris Park, together with Hunts Point, is already one of the city's largest STEM job centers. New service, together with the proposed land use changes, will ensure these centers become even more tightly integrated into the borough, the city, and the region. Today, Morris Park is already home to a large array of medical and research institutions, as well as a large commercial campuses. All told, the center adds up to some 3,000 students, 300 medical offices, and more than 23,000 jobs. We care deeply about what these opportunities mean from Bronx Nights. That's why DCP has undertaken a study under the guidance of the Mayor Office of Talent and Workforce Development. Did I get that right?
That's correct. That's a mouthful.
To bring forth a plan that identifies pathways to connect Bronxites to growing job opportunities in the area and in key industries. Finally, we have an exciting opportunity to locate a STEAM school within the Morris Park Job Center with a focus on healthcare and life science. We look forward to continuing the support of New York Public Schools as it seeks to find the right home for such a center. We believe this center will play an important role in connecting young Bronxites to these important industries. I promise I'm at the end of the presentation. Some legal things that we need to disclose. Now, an overview of the study associated environmental review and racial equity report, building on the draft scope of work published in December 8, 2022, a draft environmental impact statement was prepared as the proposed actions have the potential to result in significant adverse impacts. The draft environmental impact statement, or what we call DEIS, analyze the potential of the proposed actions to result in significant adverse impacts in the technical areas listed here. The DEIS identifies the potential for significant adverse impacts for a number of those technical areas. Potential mitigation measures to minimize significant adverse environmental impacts were identified in this study. DCP will continue to work with the partner agencies to further explore and define the mitigation measures between the draft EIS and the final EIS for any identified significant adverse impacts. A racial equity report is required as the proposed land use actions will allow for an increase on both permitted residential and non-residential floor area beyond the set thresholds. As outlined in the report, the Bronx Metro North Neighborhood Plan will advance the city's state goals for advanced fair and affordable housing, including by applying mandatory inclusionary housing to most of the project area. Secondly, the project serves to enable equitable investments to address neighborhood-based legacies of discrimination, segregation, and concentrated poverty. This slide shows key demographic data for Community District 9 and portion of Community District 10. affected by the proposed land use action, as well as for the Bronx and the city as a whole. On the left, this graph shows the share of population by race and ethnicity for all three geographies. On the right, the included graph shows the percentage change of the population by race and ethnicity. Okay. Similar to the last slide, this slide shows key demographic data for Community District 11 and again, a portion of Community District 10 affected by the proposed actions. Compare with the Bronx and the city as a whole. And with that, I would like to summarize again the actions before the community board today. These actions include a series of zoning map, text, and city map amendments in community districts 9, 10, and 11, intended to facilitate the growth of housing, retail, and office uses near new transit. These include up to 7,500 new housing units, including 2,000 permanently affordable housing units, we hope, in an area of the city that has seen exceedingly little mandatory inclusionary housing produced, as well as up to 2.5 million square feet of commercial and community facility uses, 10,000 jobs, and a series of public realm improvements. These actions taken together will help to ensure that the future stations are thoughtfully integrated into the fabric of the communities they will serve, that long-standing gaps in housing production, including affordable housing near the station's areas, are addressed, and that institutions and employers are poised for growth and success, and that Bronx sites are well positioned to take advantage of these opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow,
Beautiful
that's
job.
helpful.
Oh, beautiful.
So it is a mouthful, and I'll just say a couple of things. So we certified this at the commission on the 22nd. So it hasn't been that long. And so when we spoke to Jeremy, we wanted to come and give this presentation first, but obviously you have 60 days before the board has to vote. So this is sort of our first pass at this, if you will. Obviously, we want to also give you guys an opportunity to actually read the materials now that they're publicly available, not only the land use application, but also the draft environmental impact statement. So between now and even the public hearing, as you guys review the materials, we'll obviously take questions tonight, try to answer them, but as folks, whether the board or board members have questions, send them to us in advance. We're also available at the office to answer questions. And obviously when we come on the 4th, you guys will direct us a short presentation, whatever length you like, and then we can take questions from the public as well.
You're going to be sending this to the board for the board to disperse to look
And the
over?
presentation itself,
Yeah,
we can do it.
Yeah, we can send that. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. We can send that.
Like, there was some things that caught my eye, and I was like,
Oh yeah,
because the task card is on the bottom, I was like,
yeah,
I can't tell you what page it
and
was.
you can't. Yeah, no, we'll send a PDF of this. Absolutely.
Can I just have of course, I have to say something about the overview of everything. So
Sure.
first of all, when all this started, first of all, it was 6,000 units, 6,000 apartments. Now it went up to 7,500. Okay, so I don't know why that changed. I know that's flexible. I know that's a flexibility. But you're inputting in this 46 block close to 20,000 or more residents.
Projected. Over a 10-year period. Remember the analysis that we
Yeah, but
do.
the final number.
But it's the final number. But remember, it's over a 10-year time horizon,
Right.
spread across the study area.
So let me just backtrack for a second. I've been very involved with this, so I've got so Morris Park and Van Nest, and probably Parkchester, but mostly Morris Park and Van Nest have community issues that we haven't even gotten to. We are in need of middle schools. We don't even have the enough public schools to service our low density area right now. And our Stop and Shop has been taken away. We're now a food desert. So we do have small places, and I've been to all the workshops. I loved the workshops. I thought they were great. And I loved all the ideas. And I'm like, well, I don't hear anything from that input. Okay, I don't hear
Which input specifically? Maybe I can.
workshops where people from the community and said, well, I want a Trader Joe's. I want something like that where we have different, you know.
Sure. So
needs.
what I'll say to that is that so the zoning is a blunt tool in many ways. And so the zoning resolution, what the proposal allows is creates for a lot more flexibility and the opportunity for some of those types of uses. You'll see in some of in the proposal, we talked about several commercial districts that we're mapping. In those commercial districts, you could get something like a Trader Joe's, a grocery store, and any of those. You could also get some of those also can locate, depending on their size, within areas where commercial overlays are mapped. So there are those opportunities for those. We just as a city, like, because this is it's all privately owned property,
Right.
we're creating the capacity for a lot of those things to happen and incentivize them. So there is that opportunity there for those types of things, like you mentioned, grocery stores and some of
You
those
know,
other
if
things.
if housing is a major issue, which it obviously it is, because we're rubber stamped as the area that this doesn't have this, but we do have a lot of housing here. It's just not like Parkchester or Pelham Parkway. Okay,
Sure.
but there is a lot of housing, and there's just housing seems to be the main focus, which I understand, but you're talking to two major communities that have had needs that have not been haven't been supplied yet. And now we have this large amount of yes, there'll be more jobs, yes, there'll be more housing, etc. But you're coming to a place that is still looking for resolutions on the level that we have. And now you're bringing another 18,000, 20,000 in the span of 10 years to an area that has not even gotten the amount of schools we have no all our middle school kids go out. They go away. They don't even stay in the neighborhood. They're bussed out. So there are issues that have to be solved first in many people's minds before you start bringing on new and finding a way to not forget about what's needed and how to make this work with the new ideas. So
Sure.
And to piggyback really quickly off of Bernadette, I'm one of Bernadette's examples of people. There's no high school here. I had to commute over an hour and 45 minutes to go to high school every single day at 14 years old. That's unreasonable. There's a significant issue. Our middle schools, I was in a classroom and I was in middle school. I graduated middle school in 2014, so it wasn't even that long ago. One of 32, so extremely large classroom sizes that are disproportionate to other New York City public schools. And the result is that I went to a high-performing school for high school and fell behind significantly and had a lot to catch up for because there are major equity issues. The other concern that I also have is that we're talking a lot about these automotive businesses that exist on the Bassett Avenue, and these are all family businesses. These are all businesses that are owned by individuals. So what protections are going to exist for current businesses so that they're not bullied by developers into selling their businesses and leaving the community?
lots of questions.
I have more concerns because we have seen everything done in Mott Haven, and I actually was able to go through an example. I understand that you're saying that we're going to have 1,900 affordable housing units, but that's nothing compared to the 7,500 that you're now proposing, which, with all due respect, I would be remiss to not assume that number will increase with time as well.
And the AMI is unreachable.
The AMI is unreachable. We've seen neighborhoods like Mott Haven undergo zoning changes and modification efforts, and the result has been that developers have erected buildings in areas like Mott Haven that ultimately will result in residents being priced out. New developments, such as the development called Maven, have one-bedroom apartments starting at $3,200 a month.
Jeez.
Another development called the 88 is renting studio apartments starting at $28.27 per month. 1856 Park Avenue, also in Mott Haven, lists a studio apartment for $26.73, and these are not meant for community members, especially because the median household income in Mott Haven is $30,741. Yet to qualify, you need to make 40 times the rent. So that would mean that the approximate required income would need to be $120,000. That's 4 times more than what people make. Affordable housing that exists is not truly affordable, and the city continues to have this same issue. Creating the housing problem in New York City is not a housing shortage. It is a disproportionate. There is a miscommunication between what we are renting for and what people are making. And creating new housing is not going to solve the problem because we have, I think a recent statistic came out, 20% of apartments are vacant in New York City. And this is only going to continue to exacerbate the problem
So
of
they could fill up the Empire State Building with all the vacant apartments.
So this is only going to contribute to worsening economic development. This is not going to benefit community members that currently live here, especially when the average income is $57,000, which you just discussed for the Morris Park neighborhood, and the surrounding neighborhoods, their average income is less.
A lot less. Yeah.
These
so-
jobs are all, like, I understand community hiring legislation has been passed, but you also have, but community legislation hiring would require, sorry, there's a feedback. That would assume that the rules that are coming.
Please turn off the speaker.
That would assume that community members and residents are equipped for these jobs, but we have an issue with education in this area as it is that we are lacking in elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools. So we'd be missing also on the college education, which most of these jobs would require.
We also have, some sort of, we have been needing some sort of input in our children here. Like community centers and things like that. I mean, things that we've been needing for past decades to input in our, in our future, which is our children. So our education is an issue. And also, what do we give them for our after school programs for, what a lot of other communities have, but Mars Park and Van Ness do not. So that's, you're hearing about what we need. And
Sure.
while zoning is the issue and everything.
Sure.
So.
I'm sorry. Did you want me to or did you want?
A lot of the development, yeah, it looks cool, but it's not a loss of equity in this community, right? If you walk through this community, right, especially around that area, you see a lot of home ownership, right? Like the biggest draw for Parkchester, not Parkchester really, but Morris Park.
Parkchester too, they're co-ops, they're all privately.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's always been. It's always been home for people. So when you're developing and you're increasing the zoning of these places, we all know that it's going to be developers who are going to be buying out our homeowners and building it up. And then we're losing out on the equity
Yes.
of that property. I'm looking at the small business overlays too. And what I'm going to predict, right? I'm just going to say it straight up. There's going to be a lot of corporate, right? The culture of the small business aspect of it will be lost because property value is going to increase, and the property value is going to increase, means our rent value is going to increase.
So we lose our-
It's not capped at all. So automatically, our residents here are going to be priced out of the community. I like this esteem initiative. I think those are cool. Well, I think what really has to be brought back to the conversation for this entirely is about equity and how can we ensure that equity is given back to our community and that we can still uphold the culture that these communities are supposed to about.
We also keep the fabric of our neighborhood, which is its character, but but open to change and development, but finding a midway.
A balance.
You brought up a very good point, and I just want to say from feedback from a lot of residents that live in by West Farms, et cetera, was brought to me with a lot of the buildings. Like I had this one family come to me and say, do you know what? I love my area where I live, whether it be by Simpson Street or whatever. I love it, but I can't find anything to own. This is an older gentleman, and he says so many families want to stay in the neighborhood they love, but it's all rent. There's no home, there's no options for home ownership. And that's important.
So just a couple things. So you said a lot of things, and it's really great to hear. So this is a really important opportunity for the city, but also for you guys. You talked a lot about what your needs are that haven't been met. I would just encourage you guys to look at this proposal and use this as a tool to communicate some of those to the city. This is a city-sponsored initiative. Look at some of those things, some of the, however the board is going to vote, but include that in your commentary. That's going to be really important. I think, on the, we talked about the housing being rental and being affordable, include some of those commentaries about home ownership. I think HPD is on the line. There are term sheets for home ownership. There may be more. I think there's only one. There are different term sheets, but I would encourage you guys, as you're looking through the proposal and making comments, whether it's about housing on the business, include those comments in there. Those are important, and I think from the commission side, both elected officials, not only the borough president, but council members, they want to hear those things because it helps shape the proposal. You know, as you and some of you have been around longer than on with this proposal, even before that. So it has evolved, and it's going to continue to evolve even in public review.
I have a question as kind of going off of that. What levers do you have to pull for? You mentioned the school. What levers do you have to pull for bringing more schools in, for maybe making some of these proposed developments into co-ops or condos as opposed to purely rental units? What can you do on that?
So on the housing piece, so what we're doing here through this proposal, so we're mapping mandatory inclusionary areas. So regardless of whether or not so a portion of those units would have to be permanently affordable for, I think it's 25 or 30 years. So that's one component. They can also apply to HPD for additional subsidy. And when they go to HPD, and that's why it's important for, like, when you guys submit a recommendation and you make a commentary maybe on housing, you talk about, if you want to talk about it from a perspective of either AMIs, if you want to talk about it from that perspective, or also just and we hear this, not only here, we hear this across the city, and especially in the Bronx, homeownership is really important, including that in your commentary. Now, we as a department don't control that, but certainly, codifying that in your recommendations, communicating that to elected officials and to city agencies when they go to work with HPD. Obviously, there's financing, all those things, but that's something that they can consider when they go to apply for subsidy from the city of New York.
With regards to MIH, will all of the parcels be part of MIH, or does that go for each one of the parcels? It's a different decision or proposal.
No, so the proposal right now is MIH would be mapped across the entire special district. So the entirety of the study area would be mapped with MIH.
So that's 15% of that will be to the homeless. Okay, is that's what mandatory inclusion housing?
No, that's not what. No.
That's the other.
Mandatory inclusionary housing. This program, what does is that when we map an area as MIH, it guarantees that for when those lots are developed with a building, for the life of that building, between 20 and 30% of the units are permanently affordable. And when I say between 20 and 30 is because it's a range depending on the subsidy program that they work with HPD to subsidize those units.
I have a question on
50% of is between 20 and 30 depending on the HPD program.
Right, but I have a question on that just to follow up and just to be really clear. You're saying that MIH requires that the developer set aside 20% of the floor area to be 40% of the MIA, correct?
It's between 20 and 30% of the units produced in that building, in the housing building, to be up to 80% AMI.
Up to 80% AMI.
And depending on the program, I'm not well versed in all the programs of HPD, but they have different programs that target different levels of affordability. So depending on those, you have a range of how much they can spend.
I appreciate the demographics that you guys pulled up and shared with us about, CB11 and CB10, but do you have AMIs also for our neighborhoods?
Not at hand. We don't have it at hand.
Not on hand.
Because we want to know, like, when these affordable units, right, come to this area, what the rents are going to be capped at. So you're saying up to 80% of the AMI, it could be lower, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's going to be a range of 80 to 80% of AMI, right?
Up to 80% AMI.
So is 30% going to be the rent of that AMI?
Can you repeat that again?
Repeat it.
I know it's so confusing. I even confuse myself.
Yeah.
Even if it's on a sliding scale, the developer is the one that still picks what the rent is.
Right, but there's got to be a cap. That's what I'm saying. Where's the cap at? What decides what the rent is? This is a question to DCP.
No, that I think like, I mean, I do believe that the permanent affordable housing units are assigned and administrative by HPD, not the developer. And if I'm incorrect, please Ted or somebody else from HPD correct me, but I think like that's what I think is the beauty of the program, that it doesn't put that power to the developer. It also, it is in the city, and the agency that is in charge of that is HPD.
But for
Right,
example,
and I think that would be something that would be really helpful to everybody, like, talking about this in a conversation that with so many of these, words being used and terms being used, that we understand clearly what MIH means, what AMI means, what the sliding scale of affordability is from 20 to 80%. And, so we can have an idea of what those units are, like, if
Yeah.
it's truly affordable to the people who are currently living here, or for the rest of the Bronx, right?
Absolutely. So thank you for that. So I think when we come for the public hearing, we'll certainly make sure we'll have HPD in attendance, and I think they're on the line and they're sort of hearing some of these questions. So they'll be able to speak, I think, a little bit more detail about like how the programs work, AMIs and those kind of things, and how rents are assigned to affordable developments through the city and what their process is.
And
Is this also being presented to CB10 and CB9?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, we
Yep.
have to.
Both of them.
Yep. Both of them.
Just a follow-up, question, in terms of like, some of the concerns that people have, talked about in education, schools. Have you guys done an impact study on, that's, also being part of the development that comes along with City of Yes?
Yes. So this was a full environmental review. So
Right.
I don't know if you so we did put up a slide. I think there are 19 categories that get analyzed as part of the environmental impact statement. So we did analyze all of those, and I think we've identified impacts in certain categories. This is the draft environmental impact statement, and obviously between the draft and the final, we will work with our sister agencies to mitigate those impacts.
Schools was one of them.
Schools is one of them.
Schools was one of them.
Yep.
Yeah,
So that is being addressed, or that is being studied?
yeah, that's been said.
Has been
Yeah.
studied, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. I just want to be clear. Thanks.
Okay, we have another question.
Another question. We'll see another question.
Rabbi,
Oh, right there, you're over there. I don't see you.
I just want to say that the reason you didn't see new development over here, please don't take my picture, Michael. The reason you don't see new development here is because the developers themselves didn't develop here, because the land here was too expensive. Just like in the other boroughs where you said the other 4 other community boards where there was no development of low-income housing or MIH. It's because that the property values were too high for the developers to buy here and build. Now, is this, and as a member of a former community board that introduced the MIHCQA, the buildings are given extra heights for the MIH, aren't they?
We're using existing zoning districts, and with the special district, we are increasing capacity to reflect also what we will be proposing as part of the housing opportunity proposal.
Right,
Yeah.
and if they put a community facility in the building, they can get additional height also?
No,
That's
that is only, that happens a lot in our 6 districts.
Mhm.
I can become very technical here, so please stop me if I went.
Well, you're going to an R61 district, that's why I'm asking.
Right, but our 6-1 district in our special district has a contextual
Okay, because it's a
envelope.
brand new district.
So,
footage increase, that's it.
we're going to be giving a specific base heights and building and total building heights.
Okay.
They are predictable. They're not like high factor, as you're saying, that like if you add community facility and then put housing on top, it
Mhm.
pushes the building to be up till the end.
Right.
With our districts are contextual, and there's high caps across the board for all of them.
Because, it's as of right and not out of context, as you say.
Exactly.
Now, one final thing, Are all of the buildings gonna be getting city funding or city tax breaks, or just certain ones?
When you say city funding, would,
Well,
so,
will HPD be funding all of the buildings or just some of the buildings?
well, they won't. So, I mean, a developer is gonna have to sort of like a private property owner developer is gonna have to raise their hand and go to HPD if they want,
Right.
subsidy. So they won't, I mean, they'll, I mean, whatever their budget allows, I mean, they'll subsidize, I think, as many, that are financially feasible. So, yeah, but I can't say they for like all of them, but like the tools will be there in terms of MIH and those kind of things to facilitate, housing on those sites. And then the next part of that would be working with HPD on term sheets. Yeah.
Okay, any follow-up questions? Because we're at an hour for both presentations. We've done an hour for each. I think that's been fair. Any final questions? Final?
I just have one other
Fine.
final question. What is the, and Robert, what is it's a city council 1221, et cetera, that says that any developments over 40 units have to have 15%.
No, that's if they take the city funding, if they take tax breaks or the city funding from
Right, so
HPD.
that'll be per parcel. What's it called again, Robert?
It's the 15% set aside for,
Yeah, there's a particular name to
once
it.
they get in, they're called formally homeless.
Yeah, so that's something also that I'm just concerned about with each one of the parcels, but you're saying like does that happen between each one of the parcels that get developed?
No, so like I think what he alluded to, so that's a requirement once they get city subsidy.
Okay. So there's just a lot to take in.
Okay, thank you so much for coming to the Bronx. Coming up now.
We work.
In the Bronx. I live in the Bronx, so.
Okay, it's coming up. Thank you so much. Very informative.
Yeah, and I want to say, we're working on updating the information on our webpage to reflect where we are right now. So we'll be publishing in our webpage the dates of our community board meetings and hearings and votes.
Okay,
At the
good.
same time, we're going to be putting a link to the presentation with shared certification. We will send you this one, and please let us know if you got more questions that want us to address at public hearing. Please send us our way, and we will come prepare as much as we can to answer all of them.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Best
and
of
also,
luck.
and also just to piggyback on what Ali said, we'll be updating the webpage also just, and I'll make sure that Jeremy has it, that you guys have the links, and I think they're on your, already on the agenda to the materials. So there's the application, there's the environmental review document. You may or may not want to read that. I mean,
I didn't know I went to all of these links and I saw
so.
like 30, 15, I'm like.
Okay, so can I give you some pointers? It's thousands of pages. Go to the executive summary first, because that gives you a really good sort of, at a high level, gives you a really good summary of the proposal, of the actions, and then also we'll go through like where there are impact categories. So that's and that's probably, that one I think is like maybe 100 pages or so. Little less dense. Now, obviously, and then you can go through there's a chapter for everything from construction to open space, community facilities. So you can read each of those individually, like as you're interested. There's shadows. So, but the executive summary is a good place to start, just to get sort of like an overview. And then there's land use and public policy. Yeah, there's a lot of chapters there.
Like, for example, this is a Unionport Road demapping. When I went to that, it brought me to all of stuff.
All the actions. Yeah.
The public documents.
Yeah, all the public
Yeah. How do you get to specific parcels that you're in? Is that in the scope of work?
And so, yeah, I'd have to, I have to be, I'm not 100.
I'm gonna call you.
Yeah, call us if we can, because I'm not typically on the other side. So, but we can certainly help you navigate and figure out like where you want to go. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna go on the express track now. Okay. Street activity permit application, see page 2. Okay. Obviously, one of them that's happening already, access to care, continuity of care, which is from 19 to 27. I don't think we have much to talk about there. For all the other permits, nothing starts before, Hazel, correct me if I'm right, nothing starts till May 4th. So is there any need for us to really work on these today, or could I just hold it till the next meeting? Because we're gonna take each one of these, we'll be here for another hour. Table it. We have a motion to table second. Beautiful. Next.
Question, do you have background for each one of these?
I think,
These, I think most of these are repeats.
But you still need to find out which one are renewals and which ones are new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't really deal with the.
yeah, the big problem we had issue was the Allerton Avenue, not issue, I don't know if that's the word.
Sorry.
The Strong City Record Studio 4th anniversary, but that's October, so I'm not gonna worry about it. Okay,
It's also July.
yeah, July too, so we'll be here in March, God willing. Okay. Gaming facility text amendment. Jeremy put that in?
Yeah, and I'm like, that doesn't make any sense because I know it's an issue in CB10.
Thank you.
I wasn't aware it's an issue here.
Yeah, okay.
It doesn't directly affect us, but we were talking about it in the leadership committee, I think,
Yes.
and it was Roxanne who was upset about it. Not upset about it. We wanted to talk about it,
Well, the
wanted to have a
companies are
hearing.
Trying to sell off Parkland, so I could totally understand how
Oh,
Roxanne
yeah,
would be
that
pissed
is-
off with that, as I am too.
That's one of my favorite little parks, a little strip along the
Yeah.
it's gorgeous.
It's a hidden gem there.
Yeah, it really is.
So, and I think Malcolm, you also brought this up about talking about the gaming text, even though it doesn't impact us directly at this moment.
Yeah, just to be safe. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with analyzing it from our own perspective.
Yeah.
It's the same. Things happen.
Yeah, so that's something, but that information's got to get to you.
Okay,
Yeah, that's with us. We didn't know we had that in the agenda. If we want to see consolidation, we can.
Gaming's with you too?
Yeah,
okay.
because, in a nutshell, the state is the one that has the power to approve new casinos and new gaming facilities. But the use, very technical, the use doesn't exist in our zoning resolution. So the text amendment, when we say text amendment, like we open the resolution to write new things. What it's doing, it's adding the use of casino. So it can be allowed in New York City. Way that we're doing it is geographically, it's connected only to where the state.
I'm sorry, repeat that.
Yeah, the text amendment says, we'll say,
Thank you.
sorry, the text amendment is proposing to say that, something like, gaming facilities will be allowed per state license are given, meaning like, it won't be in anywhere in the city.
So it would have to be
only
approved by
allowed
the state, like
by
they would have to have a
the
license from the state first, then
Exactly.
they can select a location.
Exactly, so that's why we are saying it's a citywide amendment because every time we open the zoning resolution to edit it,
And we can voice our opposition.
you can voice your position, but the only application that we know of somebody proposing a casino is the one in City 10. We don't know of any other one. And what we know from the timeline of the state, that the state has 3 licenses. One is already compromised for Aqueduct, the one that you.
Yeah, the
said,
Aqueduct, yeah.
Yeah, in Brooklyn. And the other 2, there are 8 proposals.
Citywide.
And then there are 8 proposals, which I think 5 are in Manhattan, 2 in
Brooklyn.
1 in the Bronx, and 1 in Queens. So all of them are fighting for those 2
Two
spots.
licenses, yeah.
And that needs to wrap up at the end of the year. So it's it's a step process, but we need to do these changes in the resolution, so they are legal.
Yeah, I think like having you come back and have
Yeah.
that be
Yeah.
clarification.
I'm sorry.
Next month is a public hearing.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
Hello. Is
Yeah.
the gaming facility up for discussion yet?
Not yet.
Particularly.
Not yet.
Talking about
Just
getting them, they offered to come back and talk about it
Yeah.
specifically at a later date.
But the deadline for community board review ends on Feb 4. That's the issue that I had at the last meeting, at the leadership meeting. But since for some reason everyone said that it didn't pertain to them, it was dismissed. But
Is it April
what
4th?
what the main thing regarding this text amendment is that the city
Waiting
is
for-
deciding.
for the-
One second,
Okay.
Roxanne. No one's listening. Hold on.
What?
Hold on 1 second, Roxanne.
Sure.
The only thing I know is that the public hearing for the city planning commission is this Wednesday. I will need to get back to you on the voting and when. And as our policy in the agency, committee boards can submit their opinion anytime before the vote. So like,
Yeah.
let's see if we can make space. to
Frozen
this.
pieces.
And again, it will not be applicable
Yeah.
in the for the information that we know.
Right.
Good.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Good night.
Okay, we're up to the gallery session.
All right, Rabbi, can I finish my statement? Because I have to go back
I'm
on the train.
sorry. Okay, I'm sorry.
'cause I'm working late and I'm
You
tired.
weren't even on the gallery
My
session.
thing is with the
yet, just to
gaming
be clear.
facility thing. I'm sorry, someone's speaking because or is it me?
Got 2 minutes.
But no one
Yeah,
else
no,
was
we were
time.
going, Roxanne, listen to me
Yes.
1 second, please. Could we
Yes.
just go into the gallery session and then I'll introduce you and off you go. You can speak all you want.
Oh,
Okay?
but can I just make a quick statement? Because Mr. Press spoke and I'll leave the meeting. With
Not yet,
spending more time discussing me talking than me making a quick statement.
No, go ahead, Gal. It's all yours, Roxanne.
Okay,
Go.
thank you. Regarding the gaming facility, the issue was not so much that we're not having a casino in Community Board 11. The issue is that the city is going to give the state, override Europe and give the state full discretion on whether a casino could be built on property while going through the Europe process, while going to environmental assessment statement, while going to city planning, and without even having a community board review. They're going to have their own CAB. And that's kind of against the city charter that if they do the special exception for the casino, what's next? How can we allow the city to give its powers to the state to determine what was local, for the local community side, whether something is appropriate to be built? And that group 8 is going to allow even hotels, other amenities like restaurants. So it's not just whether it's going to be casinos on parkland, which is very important to me. I don't want anything on parkland, but that the city will just hand over what was mandated by city charter for local review on what's built on local property. But that's, anyhow, I'll discuss that city planning. Have a good night.
Thank you, Roxanne. Thank you so much. Have a great evening. Anybody, there's a hand. I see a hand.
No, Christine's hand been up all night.
Leftover, I think.
Oh, Christine is a steady hand. Okay, fine. Anybody else, gallery here? There's a hand. I see it.
Diana?
Diana, hand. It's all yours, Diana.
Thanks. So I have 3 questions. One for the Westchester flooding project. Can we ask them to set up a community task force like the one that they had for the Pelham Parkway reconstruction? And have a community liaison involved? Because when that reconstruction came to the BPECA area, I mean, we were in touch with them every week, several times a week. It was very important. And then
Okay.
the draft environmental impact statement that they mentioned for the upzoning, the Metro North, can we get a copy of that? Because sometimes these environmental impact statements, they're prepared by like citywide staff who don't necessarily know the local conditions. And the one for 2560 Boston Road said that it would be no impact on the local schools and there was plenty of room in the local schools, which was not true at all. So the earlier we can look at the environmental impact statement, I think the better. And then the last question is, in our area, one of the big problems for builders is the amount of bedrock. And digging foundations can be very expensive and time consuming. So I just wanted to know if there is a lot of bedrock in these areas where they want to
Well,
develop.
they Really is, Diana. I just know from past, there's one, I mean, it's a blessing and a curse. But yeah, but there always has been in Morris Park, Van Est, Pelham Parkway, our whole district.
Because that limited, for instance, some of the parking garage space that they'd incorporate in their buildings. Because the bedrock was too hard to drill through.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you look to see if the public, on the public records on the, if any of those studies are there? I literally opened up and it was
They're
like,
not.
they're not.
Ooh, I couldn't find it. It was too,
Yes, about
it
it.
was
and
way
she
too
said
hard.
that they-
It's so much
they-
information.
She'll send it to us once it's up and ready.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot to read there, a lot to read. So.
Okay. Diana, anything else?
Thank you. No, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? We got our friend, Mr. Press.
Yeah, I think that Community Board 11 should vote down the gaming text for the simple reason that most likely in another year or two, once these 3 licenses are given, they may bring out some more licenses. And who knows if they won't find any property in Community Board 11 to use for a casino.
Well, I
One
can
never
see
knows.
one property that just changed the Marriott into
Correct, it's
a
possible.
casino. That's a perfect.
Well.
Or the old Bronx Psychiatric Center.
But, you know, so, you know, I would advise the board to vote it down. Secondly, the property that they mentioned on Bronxdale Avenue by the train yards. I have a certificate here from it's a CO, certificate of occupancy from the Borough Superintendent of the Bronx dated November 15th, 1950. That states there is an in-ground gasoline tank and pumps in a private driveway for the owner's use only of a 20,000 gallon fuel oil tank.
At
Now-
1601 Bronxdale?
Yep, this is the warehouse. Okay, this is the warehouse, it's from 1950, I'll show it to you before you leave. You have to make sure that that fuel tank is gone.
Yeah.
There's no residue because other gas stations have closed and been built over, and yet the underground fuel tanks have been left, and they've, you know,
How are they allowed to do that? First of all, how are they allowed to do that?
it happens.
I know.
It happens.
Back then, they didn't care with the brown ground.
Right. There was no such thing as a brownfield back then or anything.
Correct.
So,
Long time
you know,
ago.
I would check into this to make sure that this gas tank doesn't belong, is it there anymore? Maybe Con Ed is still using it to fuel their trucks. One never knows.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Press.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Gallery. Okay, this concludes the gallery session. Motions, we have no motions to talk about at least now. Old business, and I see Ms. Kowalik and I see the street lights. But the rumor is that DOT is coming to the next meeting.
Yes.
Is that a correct rumor? So I would like to table those two till we hit DOT, because we know about this, Debbie, we know about these two. And I would just like to carry it
Yeah,
over.
there's even one on the other side of the.
Right,
page.
I would like
Yeah.
to carry that over.
Okay, that
Okay.
I agree with, but new business, I was
Yeah, okay,
hoping,
I'm gonna do new business.
I was
How about new
hoping
business?
somebody from MTA was gonna still be online,
No.
but yeah, they all vacated the premises.
I dismissed them, I'm sorry.
I know. But in new business, I wanted to bring up along what's Allison's bus line number now, 25 or 26? 25? Okay, along Allerton, there's a bunch of decommissioned bus stops.
Yeah.
And within those bunch of decommissioned bus stops, there are abandoned shelters.
Yeah.
We need,
Yeah, can't they move those
right,
shelters?
we
to where they're
need,
needed?
I've been asking for some bus shelters in other locations. Can't they, first of all, by somebody seeing a bus shelter there, somebody that's not totally familiar of the area, don't know that it's decommissioned bus stop, is gonna sit there and wait for the bus.
That's true.
Yes.
Also, if it's decommissioned as a bus stop, can we get parking back?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm not
And
even,
I have a
sure
list.
most people could have even answered that. We gotta get a person.
I think there
from-
was one.
We gotta
there.
get from an MTA person from Department of Budget. That's, I think, where you're gonna get the answer from. And I will talk to Jeremy about that tomorrow.
Yeah, because I have a list of the decommissioned.
Did you have the specific address?
Yes, and their bus station call numbers.
Right, I actually, I had Jeremy, there was a, decommissioned bus stop, and the shelter's still there, but the bus stop up by Adams Street, that million people are totally used, doesn't have a shelter, so he put in, I gotta follow up on
Right,
that.
like I've been asking for on Pelham Parkway by TD Bank. Pelham Parkway and White Plains Road does not have a shelter for
Yeah,
the local bus. And I've been asking for that for the longest.
And this is the result.
Also, I've been asking for the longest Pelham Parkway by Stillwell. The eastbound does not have a bus shelter. So,
So that just, as long as you have the addresses, right?
yeah.
Yeah, but you gotta find a Department of Busing person. And I think this is all because of when they rerouted all the buses,
Yes,
right?
all the bus redesign.
The bus redesign.
This was always, so those are the folks that we gotta go find, that we had here a year ago, since when it was redesigned, about a year ago, right?
Oh, yes, it was a year ago.
Gotta find those people. Okay, that's easy.
But also one other thing that you can do, Deb, is that you could ask Jeremy to, whoever our liaison is, to put in a work order, put an email with the addresses of the ones that are vacated and the ones that you'd like to have those shelters be used for.
Repurposed.
Yeah, put it in an email to him and ask him to send it, get it started. And if there's no response, like, I don't think there was a response to mine, but the follow-up, you need to have a follow-up status. So you might want to start that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else from the table, from the screen?
Rabbi, I sent you an email earlier. I'm interested, the mayor did an initiative in December about daylighting. And since we seem to have trouble communicating with the DOT, I think it'd be nice to get a resolution and try and get ahead of it so that we can have some input on where they're gonna daylight. The mayor has said that they want to, it's a New York State law anyway, that the
Right.
city is out of compliance with.
Oh,
We got daylighted a lot around here already.
yeah.
But they're wanting to, they're calling, the mayor has committed to universal daylighting. And it does seem to work in places that have done it. The one that people always talk about is Hoboken, which is smaller than our community district, but I'm about the size of Morris Park and Pelham Gardens, Pelham Parkway, this area. They've had 0 deaths in the last 5 years from traffic. We've had 30 in the last 10. So it could be of value to us, especially if we put it in
I know, but
important places.
And I understand the daylighting, I understand the purpose of it. But as long as most people who've been with the board can remember, I've been asking for a stop sign unlighted at Mullen.
Talked about this last month, yeah,
Right.
and that's a terrible.
I've been asking it for years, over 20 years, it was since my husband was alive, since I even remotely ever joined the board. And what did they do? They did a daylight. What ended up happening? It was an off-duty cop. Believe me, I get it, but it ended up being private parking for an off-duty cop, an off-duty FDNY, off-duty male person. It just became a private parking for somebody with a placard. And you then still couldn't see around the vehicle. Now, Con Ed is using it as a supply spot.
Yeah.
So it's.
So I mean, those are real problems. Community boards have put resolutions
well-
together, we could.
Definitely do it. I'm sorry I didn't answer you.
No,
but
that's all right.
Now I realize. it.
Yeah, no, you did. I did it really late, so it didn't get on the
Okay.
agenda, that's all.
Okay. Anybody else?
That's new business.
Okay, I make a motion to adjourn on February 1st at 10:20. It just came 3 days.
We lost time. We went back in time, but we had some hours.
9/17 on February 5th. Yeah, no, that thing's been wrong.
Okay, have a good evening, everybody.
Have a good evening. Good meeting. They're all good.